Hi, I'm Michael Newrock and welcome to today's video, the market analysis video for the week starting October 3, 2016. Great to have you here. We're looking forward to an exciting week and an exciting month. In fact, an exciting fourth quarter of the calendar year. We've had a great time up to this point. We've had great results. Last month was our most challenging and most disappointing month, but in the big picture scheme of things over the last 9 months, and I believe 52 months to date of publishing signals, we've been doing exceptionally well, and we're delighted to be able to share our signals with our members. Now, quick update, if you haven't joined us yet, last week we we finished our special for our 12 months free. It was a fantastic promotion that was very, very well received. And there's no it's a no-brainer really. It was 12 months free when you joined as a premium member. But I do have some good news if you did miss out. After we pulled the page down, we got a lot of requests via live chat, email, and support tickets from people that had missed out. And it wasn't really fair to be able to offer just a few people that had contacted us. So we decided to uh, open it up again this week up until Friday as a second and last chance to secure 12 months free when you join as a premium member. Um, Now that gives you a total of 24 months. So we look forward to you being able to take advantage of that offer. This Friday midnight, when they're gone, this time for sure, we will not be able to bring it back. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of the special existing in the first place. Um, okay, so let's get straight into the charts. We're on the gold chart to start off with. We're on the 1 hour time frame. Currently, in the short term, it's been moving downward, but let's take a look at the weekly time frame. In the weekly time frame, we can see that gold has been, moving quite dramatically upward since November 2015, and has just been going through a consolidation, more of a drift, slight drift downward. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, we can see a new downward trend trade has formed. And actually, before I go any further, I'll just make a quick mention about the indicators on the chart for those of you that haven't seen any of the market analysis videos to date. We have three indicators that we use and that are available to premium members, which they get full access to. First of all, we have the macro levels indicators, which are these horizontal lines, providing us with the key macro levels and key support and resistance levels that are taken historically over the last several years. So they're based primarily on the weekly and monthly time frames. We also do incorporate a daily. They don't change very often, but they provide very, very strong indications of where these major levels of support and resistance are, and they're great to use with any strategy pretty much. Next up, we have Trend Catcher, which are these big arrows, and they provide us with where the inception of the trend is on that particular time frame. And lastly, we have the price flip, which is our reversal indicator, giving us clues of where the market is experiencing fatigue and is likely to have a retracement. So on the daily, we can see that a new downward trend has just formed on the trend catcher indicator. Now, what I would be looking at here is that if we see a break and close below the 1307.64 macro level, you can see it's provided support here and here. Didn't quite get to it at this point here again. So if it breaks and closes below, then we could see a new downward trend in gold resulting with some pretty massive gain opportunities as a result. You can see here we're at 1318. Bottom one here, which provided support back in June 2016, is 1,207. So, being a start of a daily downtrend, just flicking back to the weekly again, we're still the danger still is to the upside on the weekly time frame. But again, if we get a shift down below 1307, we will eventually see more than likely a crossover of these moving averages and the MACD falling into negative territory until it's hanging on by a thread, in other words, on the weekly time frame of upward. And in the more medium term, there's a possibility of it falling further, but we will need to see price falling below 1307 to validate this downward trend. Otherwise, we could see a level of support here and possible further rallies to the upside. So if we look on the 4 hour, you can see that just going back, we can see that it has been being guided range bound wise by these macro levels for support and resistance, been going up, up, and now down. So we're really at a pivotal moment here of whether it breaks through or not, and that'll give us more guidance of what gold is about to do. Okay, Euro has been going. It's been fairly erratic. That's all I can say. On the 1 hour, we had a recent downward move. Now we're in the middle of an upward trend trade, but we're seeing some drifting back down. Now we're still in positive territory according to the MACD. If we see a swing upward, we could see another move to 1270 or above. Now on the weekly, you can see it's been fairly range bound, fairly flat. On the daily, we have seen a daily upward trend, but it's almost what I'd call an impotent upward move at this stage. It's not really giving us a lot of confidence in that upward move. And same with the 4 hour. There's nothing really definite. So being that the euro, to be honest, is a fairly hard one to be able to judge at the moment. On the fundamentals, you could say that that Europe has been going through quite a transitional change from Brexit to its own internal problems of the eurozone that is remaining. So here, really, if we see a break above 112.70, we could see an upward move. If we see resistance at this level, then we could see another downward move back down towards 110.98. Okay, pound. Pound on the 1 hour has been going down. On the weekly, it's been going down. And we're approaching again levels that we haven't seen since the Brexit event. Daily, it's been downward, but lately it's been more sideways. So it makes me cautious of getting into this pair anytime soon. And on the 4 hour, we've already seen a downward move. So I would suggest to stay on the sidelines, perhaps on this particular pair. Wait for the price to approach the 130, 120 and see what happens at that point. If we get resistance at that level, then it could provide a new opportunity to the downside and say a price flip or just purely on the macro level. Okay, Euro pound. Euro pound has been going up. We're on the 1 hour here, and we're looking right in the middle of a fairly strong 1 hour move. On the weekly, we can see it's been upward for quite some time. On the daily, we've been moving fairly strongly upward as well, and on the 4 hour, we can see an upward move. So far in this market analysis session, this is the pair with the most strength of guidance as far as which way it's going. So if I were to play this trade, I would be looking at, or this pair, I'd be looking at a swing. We are fairly overstretched on that 1 hour. If we see a little bit of a correction and then a green histogram on the MACD above the zero line, let's see, we see this MACD drifting down and then we see a nice big swing, it could be an opportunity. The other way to see it would be to see if it falls back to 83.36 and finds support there on perhaps a price flip trade or just a pure macro levels trade, which isn't bound by any particular candlestick pattern. So So upward would be the way that I'd be playing that, and it's just a matter of waiting for an opportunity to provide us with the lowest risk and highest probability of success and highest return. Okay, moving on, Aussie upward on the 1 hour, and if we see a swing right now, we could see an upward move. But again, we have this 76.76 or 0.7676 macro level that could provide a level of resistance. On the weekly, we can see that it has been upward overall, but not very, very strong. And we see a lot of resistance at this 0.7676 level, and we can see price flip gave a lot of reversals on the weekly time frame, and you can just see the price action. Wicks have gone past, but there's only been this case where it's actually closed above and was rejected quite swiftly and dramatically back down to that 71 level. So with all the issues fundamentally in Australia, I would be again looking at be cautious for a buy and looking more in closely at possible sell opportunities. So here we are in the daily time frame on the 4 hour. At the moment, if we get a swing down, we could see a move back down to 75.33 and a failure of this 1 hour trend. Now, that also would result over the next couple of hours, if it does swing down, to a new moving average crossover. In other words, a new trend catcher, trend trade to the downside. So I would be looking at opportunities of going short on the Aussie. Kiwi, we're almost seeing a new trend trade forming with this moving average crossover. Of course, the fast moving average crossing over the slow moving average with the MACD below the zero line gives us an indication of a new trend trade on the time frame, and this is the 1 hour time frame that we're looking at now. On the weekly, we can see that it has been moving up, but again, we see a similar story in as far as the rejection, right along here of these series of weeks at the 0.7369 level. And on the daily, it has been drifting pretty much sideways over the recent time. So 4 hour, mm, again, it very is much a trade that I wouldn't be looking at to the upside. And I would be waiting for an opportunity to possibly on the 1 hour time frame on this next crossover, if it does occur, to 71.76 as the first target. Now, if it does spike, then I would be looking again at that 73.69 or 0.7369 level and seeing if there's an opportunity to get in on purely a macro level trade or a price flip, or if it surpasses it, then catch it back down on the flip side as it and if it moves back down on a new trend trade. Okay, Aussie Kiwi, it's currently upward on the 1 hour. On the weekly, we are a fairly strong, pronounced weekly downward trend, but we've had this weekly upswing that has pushed the price right above this 104.92 macro level. On the daily, we are very much in the middle of an upward trend at the moment. And on the 4 hour, we did have a breakdown, but it looks like it's now been rejected. So we could see some more movement to the upside, perhaps up to that 106.34 macro level, which may provide more confidence for going short on the Kiwi before going short on the Aussie, because the Aussie Kiwi is going up, hence inferring that it is a bit stronger. The Aussie is a bit stronger than the Kiwi right now. Dollar CAD, we're looking at pretty much sideways on the 1 hour. It'd be good to see a swing down if you were looking at going short. However, we have this major support level at 130.62 that's provided support, as recently as about a week and a half ago, here and here. So on the weekly, again, very much sideways, no real direction and nothing that that's looking like giving us some serious guidance as to which direction it's going. Daily, again, it's been very zigzaggish, brutal, almost as far as getting into this trade, whether you're going up or down. Recently, it has been fairly volatile, to say the least, and that's not the best if when it is erratic like this and not going in just purely one direction. Obviously because of the higher probability of being stopped out. 4 hour, again, we're looking at a move downward, and it would be good to see what happens at this 130.62. If it breaks and closes below, we could see a move downward towards 128.32. If we see it supported, then we could see a move back up to 132.60. Dollar Swiss upward on the 1 hour, and possibly looking at retesting highs that were reached right on that 0.9751 macro level. And again, the last time these macro levels were changed were a couple of months ago. So it's still amazes me how accurate they are and how price gravitates towards these levels. Weekly, very much sideways. Daily, again, neither here nor there. We've had 3 price flips to the upside, and although we've been in the middle of this downward trend, it's this recent swing up has seen it just progress sideways. And on the 4 hour, we're seeing a nice, strong upward trend. And in fact, I issued this a couple of hours ago as the first trade of the week and for the month. So I would be looking very closely at this 97.51 level, and at the very least, moving stops to break even. So it is at the inception of the trend, and if it does move up towards and above 97.51, there's a good possibility of it, really rallying up to that 98.39 macro level. Okay, dollar yen has been overall upward on the 1 hour, and we're seeing just now it's attacked that 101.65 macro level on this actual bar, but has been rejected. So we'll see what happens next. On the weekly, it has been going down, but we are at a very important level. You can see going back here, it provided real support before this massive rally. So there is an opportunity. The dollar yen can be a fantastic trade. It can be also risky. Um, we're actually in this trade and have been for about a week and a half. It hasn't been moving as we would have liked it to move. However, we are currently long on this pair, and it has already hit our target one. So I'd certainly like to see it push and close above 101.65. If it doesn't, we may need to reevaluate or lock in our profits at the very least. But at this stage, I would be looking at the possibility of a move upward, particularly if we get a 101.65 break. Then it could be a very good trade to enter a new macro levels trade, because the next macro level is at 105.41. Okay, Euro Yen, all the yen crosses are fairly similar apart from the weaker ones. They're all looking at the possibility of moving back up there. They have, like the Euro Yen has, seen some real moves down, and I wouldn't necessarily this wouldn't be my first choice for going long on, because the Euro is in a bit of flux at the moment. So we can see the weekly there downward, the daily looking like the possibility of changing. We had a recent few days ago upward price flip countering this downward trend trade. So we saw it rejected at this point and tucked back down under the 113.61 macro level, but it has since broken and closed above that. So this is the third day, if you include Sunday, that we're seeing price stay above that level. Tested again on this bar at 113.61, pretty much to the pip. And at this stage, it's been rejected from going any further. And we shall see what happens now. If we see a move upward, then we could certainly see, on the basis of the weakness of the yen and the fundamentals as well. The BOJ wanting to devalue their currency and doing whatever they can, to bring it down because they feel it's too strong. We could see a move up to 115.66 or higher. So I'll just go through these as quick as I can. I want to keep it as short as possible. Pound yen has entered a new 1 hour trend trade just on this last bar. Let's look at it on the weekly. It's downward on the weekly. It's downward but fairly sideways recently on the daily, but the risk is still to the downside. If we get a swing down now, that would be a new daily swing trade and could see it drop even further than 128.80. Or even if it gets to that level, then there's a couple of hundred pips in there. On the 4 hour, we're seeing a new 4 hour trend trade occur. Now it's emerging. It hasn't closed yet, so anything can happen. If it closes in the next 2 hours, nicely below around here, 113.70 thereabouts, then that would, 130.70, then that gives us more confidence in going short. If you wanted to, there is a possibility of going short just on the power of on the strength of the 1 hour. However, these wedge formations can be fairly uh, they can work sometimes, but they can just be a zigzag, and we could see another upward move. So it is a little hard to tell at this stage. But down on the weekly, down on the daily, but sideways, emerging downward on the 4 hour and downward on the 1 hour, or an emerging one. In the next 10 minutes, we'll see. We might come back to this one, the pound yen, and see how it's going at the close of the candle. Okay, Aussie yen. Upward overall, looking for a swing up, and we could see it move up to the 79.40. If it moves down and we see a continual move, then that could be a different story. On the weekly, a similar story. It's been downward on the weekly, but again, we're seeing it being supported at the 76.19 macro level quite a lot over the last few weeks. So on the daily, we can see not the strongest of upward moves, but a new upward trend trade nevertheless. On the 4 hour, we're seeing a possible emerging trend trade. We need to see some more strength in this upward move before we get a crossover of the fast moving average over the slow. It will also change this to green. That would be nice to see. So on the next 4 hour, we could see a different story and a possibility of an upward move. And same with the 1 hour. If we see a swing, in other words, this histogram turning green, either on this bar or the next bar or the one after, as long as it's above the zero line, we could see a nice move up to this macro level at 79.40. So there's almost 200 pips in that trade as well, going long, and it's possibly a trade that I would be looking at more closely over the course of today. Okay, Kiwi yen, probably not as confident with this one as with the Aussie yen, because of course the Aussie is a bit more stronger than the Kiwi at the moment with that Aussie Kiwi pair moving upward. On the weekly, again, we're seeing a very recent upward crossover, but price, and it's all about price action, price is not above that fast moving average, so it voids that trend trade, which is why we don't see it there. On the daily, we're seeing a recent swing up, but the risk is still to the downside. So very much a mixed story on the Kiwi yen, and probably one that I'd be looking at on the sidelines. Back to the Aussie yen. Okay, Swiss yen. Again, that's on the 1 hour, and it's looking fairly mixed. Down on the weekly, possible change on the daily. We are still technically in a 4 hour upward trend after this correction again at what a surprise at one of the macro levels at 105.09. If we see a big swing up, we could see an ongoing move, but we need to see it break above that 105.09. In CAD yen, probably one of my more favored yen crosses to go long on, and we're actually in this trade as well. It has been a bit of a roller coaster ride, but the trade is still live and in profit. So On the weekly, it is down, but we have seen it time and time again over the last few weeks hit or come close to the 76, 78 macro level, and a possible changing of the trend to an upward trend. So certainly in the 4 hour, we're looking. Uh, if we get a swing upward, then we could see a real rally up to 78.42. If it breaks through 78.42, it's where the last price flip was given at that macro level. Then put on your party hat. We could see it go to 80.62 and be another nice trade for September to absorb some of the challenges that we had in September. But as a trader, you learn to be able to look at the big picture and be focused on the long-term results. Okay, Euro Aussie. We're looking at a new upward trend trade on the 1 hour, but it's not very confident. Price really isn't, didn't close above the fast moving average. So we'll see if we get a move upward with Euro strength or Aussie weakness, or a combination of both of those. Then we could see a nice move on the Euro Aussie. So on the weekly, uh, we're seeing it's still tucked just below the 147.05, but it's a bit of a mess on the weekly, as you can see there. On the daily, we've had a swing up after this new downward trend, so it really again depends on what happens. This is the uh, the main line here, whether it crosses it or not at 147.05. And on the 4 hour, we are in technically an upward trend trade, but it's been subdued by hitting the ceiling at this 147.05 and being rejected at that point. So again, this actually looks like a possible trade to take to the upside, and there's some good pips there. If it closes above 147.05 on a 4 hour upswing, we've just had an upswing on this last bar. If we get another one and it pops up above the 147.05, that could be a good opportunity. And also with the strength of the macro levels supporting it up towards 150.31. Pound Aussie. Pound Aussie is a bit of a different story because the pound has still been taking a battering. Very strongly downward on the weekly. It's still technically downward on the daily, but it has been drifting over the last few days without any real action to the downside. A new 4 hour trend trade emerging. It hasn't been confirmed yet because, of course, this candle hasn't closed. But I would be not looking at that at this particular time. Okay, Euro Kiwi. Again, like the Euro Aussie, could be a possibility. On the 1 hour, it's upward. Weekly, we have seen this change from a downward move to a consolidation, a sideways move. Again, sitting just above the 154.10 macro level. On the daily, technically in an upward trend, although albeit not very strong. On the 4 hour, again, it's just been wavering along, and we do look like we're getting some support here. So if we get a continuation of the move here, or if you're in this trade already, then fantastic, congratulations. It's been supported by both the trend trade, the macro level, and a 1 hour price flip to the upside. So there could be a good opportunity there to make some pips right up to that 157.95 macro level. Okay, pound Kiwi, again like the pound Aussie, not one that I'd be looking at this stage. Very downward on the weekly, but again, it just seems like this week is a real pivotal time on a lot of these pairs. They're all hitting these key levels, which could provide us with some fantastic opportunities to make some monster gains of returns versus the risk that we outlay on each and every trade. Daily, it's very much been sideways. So, we could see some movement here. If you see the Kiwi going down, for example, even if the pound isn't really going up, then that could give the possibility for us to move on a new upward trend trade, but a little tricky at the moment. Pound Swiss on the 1 hour, we're seeing this big correction after this big rally upward. Again, hitting this 126.47 macro level as it has before. Um, Weekly, we've seen 3 price flips to the upside occur over the last few weeks. So it tends again to seem like it's hitting these critical support levels. In the daily, you can see it here, here, and here. And once again, if we see a move upward above this 126.47, then it could be a possibility. I'm pretty sure we took this one to the upside as a macro level, and it crashed. But I haven't changed my view of the potential to the upside, and it's just one of those things with trading. Sometimes you will hit a heap of winners in a row, and it's as easy as picking up money off the floor, and other times it can be a real challenge. Now, getting back to this one, we've got some real potential here, and it's worth taking a punt on, if that's the way that you look at it. On the 4 hour or the 1 hour, it would be good to see. Well, you'd want to see a new 1 hour trend trade forming, even if you're getting in on a lower time frame, 15 and the 30. But let's look at it again on the 4 hour. If we see a move to be most stable, let's see a crossover to the upside, and we see price above the 126.47. There's a huge possibility there of 700 odd pips for ultimate target, to with potentially, a risk of a stop loss of 50 or 70 or 100, but a small amount compared to the possible gain. Okay, Aussie CAD, on the 1 hour, we're looking at looks like a rejection at that 10048 macro level. Looking at it on the weekly, we saw a big price slip occur right on that 10048 macro level, even though it is in a strong upward move. On the daily, we have seen that sideways move, and excuse me, on the 4 hour, we are on a 4 hour downward trend trade, and we have seen price react at the 10048 level with some resistance. So we are short on this, but at this stage, it hasn't been trading as we would like. Right now, we would want to see a swing downward, and then we could see the possibility of 0.9937 or even lower. If it busts above this macro level again, then there could be a change in the in the um, in the trend, and at that point, it would be a possibility of looking at tightening our stops. EuroCAD, a very mixed plate as well on the 1 hour. Hard to tell at this stage, very sideways. Weekly, slightly upward. Daily, upward, but the price has been going under these moving averages, including the slow moving average. Again, starting from this rejection of a macro level at 148.92. And for those of you that are interested, we are actually bringing out some fantastic software over the next few months, and one of them is the ability to be able to trade the macro levels with full trade management and semi-automation or totally autonomously. So look out for that. We've got some great things in the pipeline. 4 hour, again, we would like to, if we saw a swing downward, then we could see retesting of the 146.44 level. If it moves upward, then we could see a new trend trade occurring. Of course, the markets can change, and that's the one constant thing about the markets. They do change, and they can change very, very quickly. So, be prepared always to lock in your profits, because although we always have the best intentions and would love to see our members make hundreds of pips every single trade, sometimes it just doesn't turn out that way. So when you see trades that are, a reasonable amount of pips in profit, at the very least, move it to break even and then lock in some pips for some profits as you go. Okay, so pound CAD downward on the weekly, daily, it's been fairly sideways recently anyway. And on the 4 hour, we're looking at downward on the 4 hour, and the risk is to the downside at the moment. Uh, okay, on the 1 hour, yeah. So, but not a time that we would get in. Obviously, the great time to get in on the pound CAD would have been at the 170, 192 macro level. At the emerging of this trend trade, obviously it would have been too late to get down when it was confirmed, but at this point would have been a great time to get in on that new trend trade. So let's go back and just check a couple of the trades. Aussie yen, yes, looks like it's being supported up there. It's still early to tell. Anything can happen over the next 2 hours before a new candle occurs, and the euro yen also a possibility there. Dollar Swiss not really doing too much at the moment. And all right, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's analysis. We will be bringing out webinars shortly, midweek, so watch out for them. They should be starting soon. Thanks very much for all your feedback and support. And once again, if you want to join as a premium member and get all of these indicators as a special bonus, plus 12 months free signals to give you a total of 24 months, come join us and hit any of the join now buttons or copy our signals buttons on the site, or if you're on the app, there's a place where you can join the join icon, I believe. So look forward to seeing you on the inside. Members area has got some great updates, and of course you have full access with the app for signals and updates. So the whole thing becomes a learning experience as well as a positive experience overall with general trading. So until next time, good trading, live well, and I'll see you soon.